Someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind, with breakfast with bar.
Poncho Man, thank you, my man. We are presented by EAS Sports Nutrition, Cliff Bar, Timex, Roca, Tanya Pura, Rudy Project, and we're airing on Slow Twitch. Our next guest, CEO of Ironman. He's throwing a little party for about 2,500 of his closest friends tomorrow here at the Ironman Triathlon World Championship. Mr. Andrew Messick, CEO. How are you?
I'm doing great. We had 2,305 athletes check in.
2,305.
Most ever.
Biggest ever, right?
Biggest ever.
You need a bigger pier.
We need a lot of things. The pier's part of it, but
yes.
Boy, oh boy, it is managing the size of this race and the complexity of this race is a never-ending battle. So for the first time,
yes,
in 2015, we have 50 athletes from Ironman Chattanooga, brand new race.
Yes,
never had Chattanooga athletes before. We've never had Ironman Maryland athletes before.
That's right.
We've never had Ironman Barcelona athletes before. We've never had Ironman Mallorca athletes before. We've never had Ironman Taiwan athletes before. We haven't had Ironman Malaysia athletes in a while.
Yes.
And we have expanded military division athletes, 36 military athletes from 8 countries. And so however big that pier is, we got to figure all those new guys. And
well, that's the hard part. You've got, what, is it 40 fulls now?
41.
41, yes.
And we'll have more than that next year.
Right, which means every time you add one, you got to figure out where you're going to put them.
Well, you need
to qualify.
So you either need to make the race bigger, or you need to take away slots from somebody else. And
yes, that doesn't make somebody happy.
Well, so a lot of our North American races have gone from 50 to 40
right.
for 2016. We're almost entirely out of 70.3 with Kona slots.
Yes.
And part of that is because, Chattanooga and
yes.
Maryland and et cetera, et cetera. So, that's the challenge. And we still don't have a full distance race in the Middle East. We don't have a full distance race in Eastern Europe. We don't have a full distance race in Korea. We don't have a full distance race in Spanish speaking South America.
Right.
We don't have a full distance race in Italy. Who'd have thunk it?
You're doing one now.
Well, all these things are these things are in the works.
There's nobody watching here, Andrew. You can talk about that. I love that. And then, how about China? Where's our full distance race in China?
Not in 16.
But coming.
Coming. I think it's a good bet.
So how do things change with the buy by Wanda of the Ironman?
Well,
or do they?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think the fundamental architecture of what we do and the way we do it isn't going to change. I think that we're going to continue to be a company that's focused on creating great races and great racing experiences for our athletes. We're going to continue to try to set the bar as high as we can and continue to capture the imagination of professional and age group athletes around the world.
Right.
That's really that's the core of what we do, and that's the core of what we're going to continue to do. There is no doubt there's a huge opportunity in China.
Yeah.
We have 2 Chinese age group athletes racing in this World Championship. Two. One qualified at Ironman Japan. One qualified at Ironman Malaysia. And we've got just under 300 Chinese athletes who raced with us
around the world
at some race around the world.
Yeah.
And you compare that, to 60 or so thousand North American athletes.
Yes.
And
China's a little bigger country.
And that ratio is going to change over time.
You think?
And
yeah.
so, so here, this week we've got people from Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a big Chinese media contingent, big enough so that yesterday we had an English language press conference. We also had a Mandarin language press conference.
Oh my God.
And we've got representatives from a number of Chinese cities who want to host races. So there's no doubt that we're going to be doing more in China, and that Wanda, fortunately for us, is a company that has great resources and great contacts and great connections in China. The gating issue we've always had, the reason that Ironman China, on Hainan Island didn't continue, was we weren't able to deliver the type of race experience that our athletes expect of us.
Oh, exactly.
And and that's because of language, it's because of culture, it's because of all of those very, very specific local issues that make or break whether an event works. And to have a powerful Chinese company that has access to the mayor of any one of 100 cities,
Yes.
and has relationships around how do you get things done, deep reservoirs of local knowledge. Those are all things that are, that's the key for our business. And so we think that there's a great opportunity to be able to do more there. And how fast the market grows and
Right.
what does that look like, all that's TBD.
So
But-
when you look at the initiatives you've been involved with since becoming a
Yeah.
CEO here, I look at the All World Athlete Program. I look at the Legacy Program. You look at issues that there were, people feeling they had no path here. Age grouper
Yeah.
like yourself, pretty hard to qualify, right? Or myself, we'll never qualify. We're an hour away.
For
You're an hour away. I'm 5 hours away.
For someone like me, I'll never qualify for Kona.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how hard
Yes.
I train and how committed I am. I'm just not a good enough athlete to be able to do it. And most athletes are like us.
Exactly. Yeah.
And-
We want to get here,
Yeah.
but we can't get here.
So
You had to give them a path.
Yeah, so legacy is a path. The lottery situation was super frustrating for us.
Yes.
And has taken away a lot of hope from a lot of people. And
why did the lottery go away? What was the deal on
well,
that?
the Department of Justice believes that for the last 30 years we've been engaged in an illegal gambling enterprise in the state of Florida.
Oh, really?
And so it's I don't want to get into it too deeply,
Yeah.
but so the Department of Justice never said that we misrepresented ourselves.
Right.
They never said that we failed to deliver every single promise that we made.
Yeah.
They acknowledged that the value of those 100 Kona slots that we put in the lottery was a tiny fraction of the revenue that we generated, and those 100 slots are in fact dramatically worth more than what we got for them.
Yeah.
The feds were like, "Yeah, we get it. We understand that. That's completely right." We said, "So
Where's the problem?
so, what's the problem?" They said, "There's only one thing that matters, and that is whether you are licensed to conduct gambling operations in the state of Florida. It's the only thing that matters." And
So if you're in a different state, it wouldn't have been a problem. Maybe, depending on what state. It's still...
the laws around lotteries are complicated, and
Yes.
they're complicated for good reasons. But it's frustrating because ultimately what that does is it just eliminates a way to get people to Kona.
Right.
So there is a way. You can make it free. But here's the problem with a free lottery. A free lottery is any Tom, Dick, or Harry on the planet can enter. And ultimately, part of what worked for the lottery for us was that it was, because there was a price mechanism, it was essentially limited to people who really wanted to go to Kona.
Right.
And
Yeah.
people who cared, people part of our community. And so the moment you make it free, any person on the planet can enter, and the law of large numbers being what it is, it means that the people who we want to get in, the people for
Yes.
whom you
created
hope
the lottery for.
can't.
Right.
So we thought, what if you made the lottery eligible only to people who finished an Ironman?
Yeah.
Illegal. What if you made it open to people who did who bought merchandise, who went to one of our
Sure.
events, who signed up for free at Lake Placid or Coeur d'Alene? Illegal.
Yeah.
So
you've got to find a different mechanism.
you have to find a different mechanism.
And
But-
a lot of our, over the years, a number of our challenge athletes got in through that because there's a mechanism of for hand cycles, there's a
Right.
way to qualify. But for an amputee or a blind athlete, there really isn't.
Yeah, so it is one of the most vexing and frustrating things that we dealt with this year
Yes.
because, and the guy who the assistant U.S. attorney that was on the other side of the table from me is an Ironman finisher. He's like
He gets it.
He gets it, but he was saying, look, I have a personal passion, I'm part of the community, but my job says the only thing I'm allowed to care about is whether you are licensed to conduct gambling operations in the state of Florida. Whether you are, in fact, a casino. We're like, great.
We're not a casino. But
We're not a casino. We organize races. So the vision, it's super frustrating to think that the government is retroactively accusing John and Judy Collins of being crooks, right?
Because that was their mandate. It's like, we
Right, well,
always
they
want
came
the
up
average
with it.
person to get into the
Right.
race. We don't want this to become an elitist event.
Right, and it's not like Like we've been hiding in plain sight for 30 years.
Yes.
But
Right.
it is what it is. So
When I look at the event itself, and obviously the growth around the world, there was a point a number of years ago where you decided to do more of a deep dive on who is your athlete and what they want. Because unless you really do that type of analysis, you're sort of guessing. What did you learn from that? Who is your consumer, and what did they want from these events?
I think the people who are attracted to hard endurance events tend to be people who are very strongly type A. They're achievement and goal focused.
Right.
They are the kind of people who are prepared to make extraordinary efforts. They're prepared to sacrifice. They're prepared to do whatever is required to complete the objective, the mission. And that goes right back to some of the military DNA. It's all about
absolutely.
You do what you have to do to complete the mission. And those people, not surprisingly, tend to be successful, right? Because if you're goal focused, if you're prepared to sacrifice, if you don't spend your life on the couch, those people are successful at everything that they do. And so, from our perspective, our customers are an extraordinary bunch, and they are, our sponsorship team brags about them. They've got this educational background.
They make X amount of money.
This amount of money. These are the kind of cars they drive, and where I challenge the organization, where I push them, is all that's true. They are an extraordinary bunch, but extraordinary people like that have lots of options on how to spend their time and spend their money. And if we're not able as an organization to continue to capture the imagination of our athletes, of our customers, make them want to endure the sacrifices you have to endure to be an Ironman, to do an Ironman 70.3, to qualify for the Worlds. Boy, if you can't capture their imagination and make it worthwhile, they are going to find some other way to spend their time and their money.
Exactly.
So so part of why we push as hard as we do on the athlete experience, on creating programs to capture their imagination, is if we don't do it, that's when you start going downhill. Yeah. That's when you start losing them.
I look at the marketplace right now. It's endurance entertainment marketplace. You got Spartan Race, you got Warrior Dash, we've got Grand Fondos, you got triathlon. And triathlon has lost some market share, not so much from the Ironman side, but in shorter distance races, the numbers are down and flat. How do we, as a triathlon group, not so much compete, but make sure that we're front of mind? Because I look at the lowest hanging fruit is people putting numbers on to do a half marathon. Those numbers are staggering. How do we get those folks to choose triathlon over the other options, or as part of those options?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things. One of them being that the rewards of being a triathlete, I think, are greater than the rewards of being a runner. And I believe that because for almost everyone who's a triathlete, they had to overcome some weakness.
Exactly.
There are very few people who embrace triathlon who haven't had to make a significant effort, mostly to get comfortable swimming.
Yes, swimming is it's scary.
And part of the satisfaction of being a part of our sport is you had to face that fear. You had to figure out a way, You
had to conquer it.
You had to conquer it. And for a lot of us who started the sport when we were slightly older dogs, we had to learn new tricks.
Exactly.
And it's rewarding to remind yourself that you're still capable of new tricks when you're an older dog.
Yes.
And so I think that's what we as a sport need to get back to, is that yes, it's hard. Yes, it's challenging. It's time consuming. You need to be able to swim. You need to be able to bike. You need to be able to run. But it's worth it. And to convince yourself that you're still capable of doing hard things, you're still capable of digging deep, learning new skills, and conquering the unknown, is a huge part of what makes our customers so passionate. And I think as an industry, triathlon needs to remember that almost everyone comes a long way to become a triathlete, and
it changes their lives.
And it changes their lives, and I'm not sure that narrative is embedded all through the industry to the extent that that is part of our DNA.
Exactly.
Because that's, I mean, that we talk about that all the time, all the time, all the time.
And what I see is, I think sometimes when your passion becomes a business, sometimes we aren't as connected with the grassroots as we should be. You're a guy, I was at Super Frog last week, it's 5 in the morning, you and I are there, and there's something about having that direct connection to you're not just your customer, but this passionate person who shares, who wants to get to that finish line so badly, where you know that it's more than a business.
Yeah.
It's a life-altering experience, and keeping that front of mind, I think, is essential.
Well, and I think to be good at anything in business or in life, you have to carry a lot of personal passion, because people know if you're faking it. Yes. And you know, and you know, goodness knows, you know, I have my limitations, but being passionate about Ironman is not one of them.
Exactly.
And so, you know, I think that, you know, that's an important part of the success of our organization, is that we do have hundreds of people in our organization that have that crazy passion, you know, to create great races, to create great athlete experiences, and to help athletes on their way. And I fear that as we get bigger, you lose that. And as CEO, part of my first obligation is to make sure that every race has someone that loves it, and somebody who's prepared, you know, to stay up all night to make sure everything's right. And because if you don't, that's the path to mediocrity. And again, our customers and our athletes they're too good, they're too dialed in, that the moment you start being mediocre, they're gone.
They're going to move on to something else. Again, you spend your entire week, you've got sponsors, you've got all sorts of other stuff going on. Then you come down to tomorrow. And tomorrow, you get to see, once again, what this event means to people. How important is this experience? You go to events all year long, but tomorrow is on this island, with the history, with the tradition. There's just something special about this place on race day.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. It's the best day of the year.
It's Christmas.
It's Christmas.
Right? It is, yeah, it's.
My son would argue, would disagree with that, but but he's only 7.
Yeah.
So, so it all happens, and it actually starts to happen today.
Yes.
I was just over at the start of Bike Check-In.
Yeah.
And so we're doing more with Bike Check-In.
Yes.
So we've got a red carpet, we've got an announcer, we've got music. We're making a production of the athletes coming into transition and racking their bikes.
Nice.
And, you know, giving more attention to them. And so you can see, just looking at them, like it's starting.
Oh yeah.
You got your bags, you got your bike, and all of this theoretical, hypothetical stuff, like, gets really, really real. And so they're dialed in, and it's awesome.
You'll be at the finish line.
Oh yeah.
Hope people come in, and for people who haven't been there before, how special is that? Not just for the first finishers, but when people come in at midnight.
Well, for everybody, you know, there's different tiers. Obviously, there's the professionals who are, you know, chasing world championships, and there's a bunch of age groupers who are chasing world championships too. And for them, it's, you know, what was my performance, and where do I stack up in the food chain? But for many, many, many others, you know, it really is the culmination of a dream. And for how many months or years have they been dreaming about, you know, the wins at Hawi, and the fish on the bike course, and, you know, the energy lab and Elite Drive, and for them, you know, savoring the hospitality and all the aloha and all of that, you know, it's a pretty good day for everyone. And look, you know, it's our party. Like, we want our guests to be happy.
Of course you do. Of course you do. You come from, you know, last position before it was AG, coming from cycling. Obviously, a lot of passion there.
Yeah.
What did you bring from that to this? And as an age group athlete, what surprised you about when you got involved intimately with Ironman?
Well, in terms of the business difference, you know, cycling is all about professionals, 100%.
Yeah, the age group side is a different entity.
Right. And it's about professionals, it's about sponsorship, and it's about television.
Yes.
And here, you know, it's about age group athletes, and it's about their individual race experience. That's the cake. Everything else is icing.
Yes.
And so part of what, you know, what I what I hope we are gradually getting better at is how do we enhance that pro experience, and that has for 30 years been an unsolved problem.
Right.
And so we made progress this year. We've tried to create a better, more coherent championship series. We've consolidated prize money. We've put automatic entry, to Kona for winning championship races. We've got GPS tracking and biometric tracking on our professional athletes, and that, after a year of testing it at championship races, we think that's going to be ready so that people who go to Ironman.com and Ironman Live are going to be able to watch, very close to real-time live GPS tracking of the professional race. And especially for a race like this, that isn't a multiple lap race, there's huge limitations in your ability to follow the race based on timing mats and a small number of motos with cameras.
Right.
But so, for instance, hypothetically, if, say, Daniela Reef gets off the bike first, and she has 13 minutes on someone who's a good runner, someone hypothetically, Marina Carfrae, by being able to GPS track those athletes, we can over time, we'll know their speed, we'll know the gaps, we'll know, and we're not reliant on timing mats to see what's happening. And so that has the potential, we hope, to be able to start a transformation of how people consume the professional races. And there's all kinds of technological limitations about being on this island that relate to cell coverage, that relate to how robust the cell grid is here in Kona.
Sure.
But we're on our way. We're making progress, and we're hopeful that the experience people will consume tomorrow will be the best ever in terms of being able to watch the pro race. And we put a ton of effort behind it this year.
Speaking of that, the Ironman World Championship has been in Kona since '78. Obviously, 70.3 moves around. Is that something? Will this Ironman World Championship stay in Kona? Is that just a given, or is that something that eventually could change?
So, I'm over 50 now, and so when you get closer to the end than the beginning, you start thinking about how you want to be remembered. Pretty sure I don't want to be the guy. I'm pretty sure I don't want to be the guy that took it out of Kona.
Good. That's good.
I've got a high degree of confidence that I don't want to be that guy.
All world athlete program, keeping people who do multiple events feeling engaged rather than. I mean, a lot of times this can be a bucket list sport. You come in, you do it, but from your perspective, you don't want it to be a bucket list sport. You want them to do it once, but you want them to stay in.
I mean, there's huge benefits to being, to the life and the lifestyle and embracing, not just the competition part, but the fitness part. Yeah. We would like, to be creating customers for life, and to the extent that we can do that either through the All World Athlete program, through age group rankings, through the Tri Club program, all of those, our intention is to keep people racing with us, to keep them in the sport. And because we have 125, more than that now, 129 Ironman and Ironman 70.3 races around the world, we have a robust enough platform to be able to create, to be able to have truly global programs that have enough events that people can really engage on them. And so I'd like to focus the organization on things that we uniquely can do, and by being a global company, that no one else can do this because no one else has the scale we have.
Love it. Andrew, we can go on forever. I know you've got other stuff to do. Thank you so much for always being so generous with your time.
No, it's
appreciate
a pleasure.
it. It's nice to be at your party, and you can come to my party tonight.
That's on the agenda. So
again, we are presented by EA Sports Nutrition, Cliff Bar, Timex, Roca, Tanya Porta, Rudy Project, Slow Twitch. Big shout out, John Geffram, Jamie Monroe, Heidi Jansen, and of course, our main guy, Poncho Man. As we wrap up a full week, we'll be back Sunday, Championship Edition.
I'm the last guy?
Perfect. Poncho Man! Thank you! Oh, that's a wrap.